the first thing is to know that whatever needs to be fulfilled that's already been agreed on can be fulfilled without it needing to take your time, really. Unless you've contractually said you have to be the one who shows up, right? So if you've got a service that you're delivering, you can build a team around that to actually make that happen, right? The second thing is to know that even Superman has to be Clark Kent. So now you're actually taking that and you're turning it into Clark Kent time, which is like, this is the stuff I need to do, but it's going to take up like 2 days of the week or whatever it is, and be aware that's what it is. And the reason I say that is because, especially if we're creative, actually it's the same for each of us, we have an energy where we're always looking to either expand or enhance something. So if you're working with people that you already, like you could be here and saying, I don't want to work with those people anymore, but guaranteed, if you haven't changed the way you're thinking about those people, you'll go back and within a couple of months, when you show up to work with them and they go, oh, thank you so much for that, that's awesome, so now you're feeling good about what you've done, hey, can you do more of this for us? And oh yeah, and before you know it, you're signing another contract without going, wait, no, I actually said to myself, this is something I won't do, right? Treat your future self as your number one client, right? Treat your future self as your number one client, which is, would my number one client be happy about me taking this extra stuff on, which I already said I wasn't going to take on, which means I'm not going to be able to serve that number one client as much, and treat that future self as someone who actually means more to you than that, and as a result of that, and by the way, treat your future self also as your number one mentor, because you're always saying, well, what would they tell me to do right now? Most of the time we're thinking about what our present self would tell us to do, or what our past self would have done, which is obviously the wrong people. It's the future self which is most important, and if there's one thing that you should be getting really clear on right now, is who you do and don't want to be in the future, right? So then treat that as an actual real person that you're able to now consult with and check in with on an ongoing basis. And the people who are going to hold you truest to that person are going to be the people you're spending time with now that actually are holding you up to that high level as well, right? Get a mentor, get the people around you that can actually hold you to that higher self as well, really important, right? But that's what you should do. Like, obviously you're not going cutting and running and creating a bad reputation and like that, but you're designing it in such a way that you know what you're going to be doing less of. And you're always saying, what's a way I can automate or outsource the things I shouldn't be doing so I can still fulfill on it without it taking my time? And that's the key to it. Yeah. All right. And remember, your biggest problem is someone else's biggest opportunity. So you having a problem, like I've got these people who actually are paying me money to do something for them that I don't want to do, that's an opportunity for someone else who can do it even better than you to come along and split it 50-50 with you or 80-20 with you. They're happy to do it now because it costs them nothing to get the business, and you're still making a little bit of money while they're actually getting fulfilled on as well, right? All right. Okay, so you're getting the idea here. So much of this is about putting yourself, your future self, first, and knowing that if you're ever in a situation where things are getting more overwhelming, you're already going in the wrong direction. And that in itself is a huge revelation for most of us, because it means the moment you have a problem, because you've got too much stuff going, or because there's something you need to solve, you get excited about it because this is a chance of liberation. This is a chance of saying, hey, good, now I can sit down and clear all that out, as opposed to, oh my gosh, now I've got to sit down and actually work out how to do all this, right? But what it does require is for you to have the courage to let go of those things you really shouldn't be doing, because as you've seen with the different levels of the wealth spectrum, we actually get a lot of our self-worth by being busy. Right? We get a lot of our self-worth by doing things that are difficult or things that we shouldn't be doing. And so as a result, we're so used to doing that, because if we were ever at school, and at school, when we were kind of like doing things easily, the teacher was like saying, no, you have to work harder on those things. So it's like, oh, well, okay, we get programmed into a thing where if we don't have a very strong work ethic, where we're busy, then we're going to feel bad about that. And as a result, we keep on infilling with stuff which actually makes no sense at all. So the most important thing is to not feel guilty about having an awesome life. I think it's actually the right thing is for me to be able to actually do everything that I want to do with a fraction of my time. Okay, so as an example of that, one thing I'm going to say, then it's your turn. You're going to be able to ask questions. If I was to say, what's the difference of someone who gets to yellow, let's talk foundation level, and then when someone gets to yellow level, where they're running their own business, doing their own thing and holding onto it all themselves, they get to green level, where it's now other people that are now doing the majority, but they're doing some as well. They get to blue level, where they're holding the baton, but they're not playing any instrument whatsoever. What percentage of time do you think their time is going into making sure they are financially successful, which means that they're actually physically having to earn money to get by, right? So they set a plan out, they say, here's my financial plan. What percentage of this do you think it would be? Interesting. Do you think it goes up as time goes on, or do you think it goes down? It goes down, right? Okay, I'm going to give you the numbers that I have experienced from all the people that I've mentored and people I've spent time with as to what this looks like. Foundation level, generally, is around 120%. All right? They just simply do not have enough time to make the money. So they're constantly chasing, chasing, chasing. There's still not enough because of the way they've set themselves up, right? And that's from infrared, where it's actually more like 200% plus, because they just simply do not have the time. They're still going backwards. Even up to worker level, where even though they're okay, it's certainly not where they want to be, all right? Yellow level, you've now got freedom. You've now got independence. You've got things that actually are giving you reward outside of money. And I know a lot of people that have willingly chosen to be in a yellow level position where they're earning less money than if they went and got a job. But they're okay doing that. Some of you are in that situation. You know you could go get a job and get paid more money than currently you're getting running your own business. But you get other rewards, like you get your freedom and you get your ability to call the shots and so on. So you're willing to do that, plus the future promise that maybe in the future you'll be making more money than you could if you went on that career ladder. So there's a lot of decisions we make to get to this level. But at this level still, pretty much you're sitting still at around about 100%, which means you're kind of thinking in your mind, I need all my time to be able to make all the money I'm making, and we haven't quite distinguished yet. But think about this a little bit like putting your foot on the accelerator, where the accelerator is down flat, and it feels like there's no much further you can go. You know the only way to improve is to change gear. That's why you're here. It's like, okay, well, how do I change gear so I can actually have more time? And of course, that means you've got to do the opposite of what you have been doing, because putting your foot down on the gear in second gear actually stops you from getting to third gear in the first place, right? So you actually got to take your foot off altogether, which is what a lot of you have been doing over the last couple of weeks. And now your question to yourself is, okay, how much should I put my foot back down on the accelerator again, given that it feels like I'm going to get busy again, right? As opposed to asking the proper question, which is, have I actually changed gear yet? If I put my foot down, am I doing anything different than what I was doing before? Have I actually changed my business model in such a way that by putting the foot in the accelerator, it changes things, or is it still the same thing, right? And the biggest way to know whether you are or not is to ask the question, who? When I put my foot in the accelerator down now, is my team any different? If your team's still the same team that you had when you got here, then it means you're going to be back in the same situation, even with all this extra knowledge. But if you go, no, it's a different team now, I've got this person helping in this area, I've got this person helping in this area, I'm now spending my time on the things I should be doing, well, then at least you're moving up to this. Because by the time you get to green level, you're down to about 60%, which means that 60% of your time is going into things that are actually helping that business to be successful, but you've now got another 40%, which is freeing itself up to go look at other investments, to look at how you might build the business differently, to take time out. So by the time you get to green level, you can take a couple of months off a year, not have to worry about the business, and you actually don't worry about the business because your focus isn't so much, am I doing the right thing? It's much more, is everyone else doing the right thing, right? So it's about focusing at them. It's not how do I make money, it's how am I helping other people make money. And as long as they're making the money, you're happy with that. It's like, this is cool. By the time you get to blue level, which is where you've now got multiple companies, multiple investments, this is down to 20%. This is like having a super powerful engine in your car, and you're going at the same speed as a Mini next to you, which is like going at like super, like, you know, fourth gear, like going as fast as you can, and you just got your foot a little bit down, and you're going at the same speed, but you're kind of going, and you're cool with that. You're not trying to kind of like prove to everyone you can go faster. Why? Because first of all, you realize that with 20% of your time, you can make all the money you actually want anyway. It gives you 80% to actually do what the company and what everyone around you wants you to do, which is to make sure you're being the greatest asset to them. So for example, I've just spent time, while I have been launching the book in America, I've spent time going and networking with the people I wanted to network with, connecting with people like in some amazing environments and so on, that if I was at yellow level, I'd be feeling really guilty about doing those things. But knowing that all my teams expect me to be out there connecting with people, meeting new people in new ways and so on, like Richard Branson, he does that. He kind of like hangs out in Necker Island, but all of his Virgin companies want him to do that because it allows him to be far more effective. And most importantly, you want to make sure that you have someone in your company at the top that can accelerate you out of trouble whenever you need it, right? So by being in here, I know I can watch everything going on, and if suddenly there's a massive crisis in one of the companies, suddenly the CEO leaves, suddenly like, you know, the sales drop 80%, I know I can put my foot down on the accelerator, spend a bit more time in that company, and accelerate back out of trouble again, which means I never have any stress that things are going to go badly wrong, and you expect things are going to go wrong. You're always going to have things you can't predict, but you're always in a position to actually manage that when that happens as well. Okay, we've got 6 things, and there's a bit of a cycle happening here, which we're going to go through, because each one kind of links onto another one. And once you see one, then it's like, oh, that's how we do that one, that's how we do that one. So how do you find the right people comes first, because if you can find the right people, then it becomes really obvious whether you, like if you already had someone who's really great with people and someone in your team, of course you wouldn't go do it yourself. You go, well, of course that's the right person to do it. So most of the time it's the illusion of limited resource, which is like, well, we don't have those people, as opposed to realizing we do. It's just we haven't actually gone out and found the right system. We haven't done this one first, right? So this one allows us to start answering this one, which we'll get to. This one starts to allow us to answer this one, because there are certain people you can trust, there's certain people you can't trust. So knowing that also makes a difference. From there, the first step becomes really obvious, much more so than when you're down here, because you've actually gone up the altitude. Then it's going to become really obvious from that, like, well, how do you actually go about changing the world if this is the case? Do you start from here? No, you don't start from there, which is why the levels are so important. This is what happens up here, and down here you can't even see up there and haven't earned the right to do that yet. So the first thing to do isn't trying to get up here, it's to take these first steps here. Because if you can't attract the right people, if you haven't built trust with them, there's no way people are going to trust you to come on with your vision of changing the world anyway. And then that actually leads to this one here, which is, well, at the end of the day, how do you make this happen? And a lot of this is psychological. It's not even about the how-tos. It's about what's going on in your brain to make these things happen. You have a last one?
In our feedback to our presentation when you were OS, you commented on mine to tap into the big data wave.
Yeah.
Now, if I consider myself with a lot of knowledge of what I do with information management, how do I go about finding someone further up that scale with the wisdom to be able to direct me to go, right, tap on this part of big data to help move me up the spiral?
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. Mentor or, I'll call it opportunists, right? People at high level, right? Giving you stuff. Okay. So let's just walk through some of these and kind of see what's going on as we step up through them. The first one, which is how to find people in flow, the most important thing is most of us are looking downstream instead of upstream. We're looking at for whoever's not busy, the ones who are knocking on our door, as opposed to where are the people who are already have got the most attraction and who are the busiest that we can actually learn from. So, for example, let's say you want to sell a property, right? You want to sell a property, well, what do? You go, well, I need a real estate agent, right? Who am I going to call? I'll call whoever I know. I'll phone a friend and I'll say, who knows a real estate agent, blah, blah. If instead of that you said, well, who's most likely to already have people wanting to actually buy my property? There's a pretty good chance it's whoever's the #1 real estate agent in the area, wherever your property is, right? Well, how would you find the #1 real estate agent in your area? What would you do? What do you think? Where would you go? You'd ask around? I mean, is there an easier way? I mean, what do you think the person who's the #1 is probably doing right now anyway? They probably have a pretty big profile, right? They're probably advertising. They're probably out there spending more money than anyone else because they already can afford to, because they've already got more than anyone else as well, right? So there's a pretty good chance straight away, if you go to where already the market is, you're going to find them already being one of the highest profile people, right? And if you then contact those people and you actually ask them, well, how many deals have you done in this area in the last couple of months? It's pretty amazing to me how many people, it doesn't matter if you're looking for a property, it doesn't matter if you're looking for someone to do a particular job for you, like do your website, right? How often we don't actually say, well, how many of these have you done in the last 3 months? Because they might be an expert, but they've done nothing for 3 or 6 months, which means that they're actually out of flow. So they're the last people you want to have on board, because they'll be full of opinion. You need to sell your property for this much. You need to do your website in this way. It's like, well, wait, hang on. You haven't even done anything recently. Why am I even listening to you in the first place? So I will always, if I'm looking to sell a property, I'll go find whoever's #1. I'll always pick 3 people, right? The power of 3 is that, when you triangulate, when you've got 3, you're going to find it's going to be one of them. So then my job's done in looking for the right agent. I know it's going to be one of those 3 no matter what. Now that job's done, now the question is, which one's the right agent for me? And I'll call all of them up, and I'll find out basically which one has done the most activity, because they're the ones who are the most likely to be able to help me, because they've probably got a queue of people wanting to buy as well as people who want to sell, which is always the case. Much more than other people just sitting around doing nothing. Now I've done #2, which is figure out, well, who's the one who's actually done the most. My job is to get them to want to sell my property more than anyone else's. That's it. So what I'll say is, well, how much are you actually getting paid at the moment for your properties? Well, I'm getting like 1%, 2%. All right, how long is it taking you normally to shift it? Well, maybe 2 months, maybe closer if I can do a better job. All right, what would you price my property at that would make you feel really comfortable you could sell it within a month? And they'll give me a price, which normally isn't the price I want, but it's a price and they're not trying to kind of like undercut it, because they get a commission based on it. So they're giving me a realistic number. So instead of what normally happens, which is you go and argue with your agent because your agent's trying to sell it at a different rate than you want, you go with it because if you want to sell this property, you want to sell it, right? You say, okay, well, if you think that's the rate, would you feel comfortable being able to sell it within a month? And they go, yep, I've already got people who buy it at that rate. It's like, all right, well, here's what I want to do. I want to take whatever commission you're earning and I want to double it. And I'll give you that if you can sell this within the next month. And if you can't, well, then we'll kind of go back to a normal rate. But if you think you can do that in a month, I want to make this really worth your while. Every time, they'll say, of course, we'll do that because they're making double the money for the same effort. And the second thing is they sell it in weeks instead of in months, and you get the deal that you want, right? What's just happened is that I've gone, instead of saying, why don't I go to where people who can't get the job done or who aren't the best in the market, why don't I go find them because I'll probably get them cheaper, and then why don't I spend my time muddling around with them to try and figure out how we can actually fix something when it goes wrong because it's probably not going to go right in the first place. Or you can go to number one in the market. So let's say you're now going to do the same thing when it comes to finding someone to put your CRM system in place, finding someone to do your website, finding someone to do your video. Anyone who you want to be your top person, what do? Same thing. You go to iLAB or you go to Freelancer. You go to where already the top people are. Okay, and then what do? You go searching for the jobs that are currently opened up. So you don't go looking for who can do a website for me, because there's going to be thousands of those people. You go looking for who's posted in the last week, I need a website done. And you'll have a bunch of these people showing up saying, I want a website done. And you can see what they actually wrote to say what they wanted to. And you can see how many they attracted in. So one might have attracted 30 bids. Another one attracted 5. So you can look at the one attracted 30 and say, well, what did they write differently to the one that wrote 5? Oh, look, they're more specific about what they wanted. Oh, look, they actually... So you're learning how to spec out a job in the first place by just watching what they said. And the second thing is you then say, well, who's been bidding for this stuff? You'll always find that some people paid the extra money to take out a premium bid, which means that they're actually the top of the list. Those guys are always the ones doing the most business because they know what they're doing, right? So you're going to the people who already know what they're doing the most. It's like if you want to find someone who's great at Facebook ads, go find the ads that actually stand out the most to you on Facebook. Call up the companies that have those ads and say, who's doing your Facebook ads for you? They'll tell you most of the time, and now you've actually gone upstream to find out who the people are who are really working with the best. Let's say you do the website thing. You're now going up to that person who's actually at the point where you can see the top guys. You can actually click on them to see exactly... Did I show you guys last time on iLAB how to do this? I didn't show you... Okay. So, so as an example, let's say you want to do something like... I don't think I'm online right now. Hey, am I online right now? Okay. So let's say, for example, you go to iLAB. I won't spend a long time on this, but I just want to... Let's say we want to do something like who has a need you have right now? Most of you know who you're going to have to do your websites and so on. Anything else? Anyone has a need? Website. Okay, so you want to do website, all right. So then you go to something like search jobs. Let me just grab a chair here. Oh no, I can't take that chair. Video. Oh, you do the same thing with video as well. I just want to show you how easy it is to be finding the best talent out there in a way that you're never ever using the excuse ever again that you don't have the best in the world working for you. Like if you start by saying, I will always have best in class, I will always have the best in the world, there was a time the best in the world were the most expensive. But now because the best in the world tend to get so much business, they can actually bring their prices down and still make a lot of money. They're actually not the most expensive. You're probably going to find someone in your local area who will charge you more to do a website than one of the best in the world, because they're already figuring out ways to do it far more smarter for many more people, right? Person who's going to do your accounts, you're going to find someone online who can do it cheaper and so on. So let's say I do something like website. I just put website to start with. There might be too much stuff here. And I'm searching under jobs because it's giving us all the jobs. There's 7,400, so it's a bit too many. It's posted by date. You can see here someone just posted something here 7 minutes ago. And then it kind of goes on like that, where these ones all just got posted 9 minutes ago. They're like getting posted really fast at the moment, right? But I can sort this by other things. So I might sort by proposal count, like how many proposals were put in. Proposal count high allows me to see this one here needs a virtual assistant for multiple blogs. Facebook post has got 409 proposals. And it was posted June 15th, so it's been on there for way too long. They just haven't taken it off at the moment. But they've still got it open. I might find that there's other things. I might say, okay, I want website design. Maybe that will make it more specific. And then I'll find, that one's still posting up there. Illustrations, design and develop a WordPress site. Okay, so this one's had 208. This was put up in July, so it's a while ago, but I can still go to something like this. They want it for less than $10 an hour. This one here is website development, 500 to 1,000. It's had 175 proposals, June 23rd. You know, I can actually click on this one to say, well, what did they write? And you'll see here, the person who wrote it, who's the one who actually wants to find the one doing it, he wants a developer who knows WordPress and HTML, it has to be cloned website in WordPress that looks like blah, blah. And so when you go in, it will show you what it looks like, which is always a good way to do it. It's like, I want something that looks like this, right? Here's your responsibilities, blah, blah. Then you can see all the different proposals, and you can see the ones that were the sponsored ones at the top. There's a bunch from India. You know, there's most of these are India, because I think this one's from India as well. So you can kind of look at different ones to see what they are. And then if you think that, you can see how much, this one's had 32 jobs, 4.9 ranking, so he's done pretty well. You can go straight to one of these guys, and you can actually say, well, all right, I want to find out what kind of stuff they've done. And you can see the job history, and you can even see their portfolio. It's all there, right? So it's not like you're guessing, is this person any good or not? And we just found this within like 5 minutes of just clicking on here. You spend 30 minutes browsing around, just like you're shopping for shoes, you're now shopping for talent, right? And you'll always get to the right talent. And then when you get to these people, you don't just say, hey, can you work with me, blah, blah. You say, hey, I'm actually putting up my job, and you put up your job and say, would you like to have a look at my job to see if you'd like to do this as well? You find most of them will then bid against it. And the way you zoom it down isn't by saying, show me your stuff, because you can see their stuff. The way you actually zoom it down is by saying, how do you manage clients who may not know, this might be their first thing. How do you actually report to them and keep things on track? I'm not so good at timekeeping. How would you actually manage a client that's not so good at timekeeping? You're asking them questions about how they would manage you, not how you're going to manage them. Because you're going to find some of them actually got really good stuff because they were actually managed well, right? That someone came along and did it all for them, and it doesn't mean they're going to be good with you. But you'll find that one will go, yep, here's how we do it. Every week we'll send you this report. We'll go through this briefing with you. And then you'll go, oh, show us what the briefing looks like. And they'll give you all this stuff. They'll give you all the templates, right? If you're going to have a business which is like, I want to give people templates on events, or I want to give people templates on how to do, the best way is to go to like places like iLAB and Freelancer and ask them for all of their best templates, and you're going to find the best coming your way straight away, right? And what they use and what actually works. So this first one here, how to find people, is about the fact that it is now easier than ever to find the best people in the world, and they're willing to show you how they do it as part of the process for you deciding as well. Does that make sense? Yeah.
That makes complete sense for suppliers and companies. I'm not thinking about, I need to do maybe a rule.
Yes.
So how do I find those people in the sectors that I want?
Right.
That's what I'm looking at, rather than looking at suppliers.
Yeah. So it's the same process. When I had a publishing company and I wanted to find out who are the best salespeople, I phoned up all my competitors and I said, I'm thinking of advertising your magazine, send me your best salespeople. And I had all these meetings with their best salespeople coming to me where I said, hey, I might want to advertise. I actually ended up advertising some of the magazines as well, but I found out who they were. Now, at that point, did I try and push them all across? No, because then I would have had a bad reputation in the industry. But did I ask them, hey, who else do you know who's in the market? Because I'm looking for to grow the sales team right now. And one of them ended up being a partnership with us where 2 magazines got together and we did an event. We started working together with them. At least 3 or 4 other cases, when they quit the job that they're in, they contacted me and said, hey, you're still looking for good people? And over a period of time, I got all the best people in the industry because I knew who they were. So the first thing is knowing that in your industry, there's already people who already are connected with the clients you want to have, right? And those people already are out there. And by you going to some of the people who are the clients or some of the people who are already out there who are in partnership and saying, hey, who are the best guys? I want to see if I can create some collaborations and I want to meet with them. You're always going to have a chance to connect with them. And all the best people, especially when it comes to where we're about to go, which is, you know, should you go out to, you know, America and do this kind of job where you're networking with people, the best networkers already are out there knowing everybody, which means that your ability to know all the right people by just getting to a couple of Blaze type people is really high once you have a conversation with them, right? The bottom line is the people who are at the high end of the industry, the people at the lowest end of any industry are trying to do it all on their own. The people at the highest end of the industry, by definition, already are collaborating like crazy. So when you have a chance to say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing, here's a plan, I can see you're doing awesome stuff, let's meet for coffee, more often than not, they're going to say, sure, let's give it a go, and you're going to be meeting with the guys at the top. Guys at the bottom won't even want to meet you, guys at the top always want to meet you, right? Provided you're coming to them with a positioning, which is not just kind of like, I want to kind of suck your brain, and then kind of like leave you dry. It's kind of like, we've got some really great, exciting things we're doing. I really think it'll be great for us to meet up and see what we can do together. Does that make sense? Yeah? But always, always, always start from the top and parachute down. Don't start from the bottom and think I can only be working with the people I know. And always assume the people you need are not the ones you know right now, especially when you're starting, which means you have to go out and give an opportunity. When you have, like for example, I just came from America, and by me having this like whole book launch, I got to meet with all sorts of people that I knew would not even be valuable for my book launch. But the fact that I was doing the book launch allowed me to open the door to them and say, hey, we're doing this thing right now. And the moment the book became a bestseller, I went on overdrive. For the 3 weeks after that, I said, this is the last opportunity I have to meet with all the people I want to meet with. I've now got a badge of honor by being a New York Times bestseller. I'm going to be emailing them, contacting them, saying, hey, I'm coming to LA. You know, my book just became bestseller. You know, I'm not an expert. I always give them a plus, like my book became a bestseller. I always give them a weakness, which is I'm not an expert at connecting with the right people in America. I really would love your help. But I've got great connections out in Asia, and I think we could do some things together. And straight away, someone's not thinking that I'm just kind of like knowing it all. They're seeing that I'm actually saying I don't know it all, and they can see they can then be of value to me, but I'm also throwing something in there where I can be of value to them as well. And then that always opens doors where they know I'm only there for a limited period of time, so they're going to want to meet with me as well, right? So put that time in, just as I was saying earlier, to say, well, who do I need to connect with? And then get out there and get connected with those people, because you're going to find your life gets much, much easier when you do that. Yeah.
Number 2, number 3 position. I struggle with, does it matter what role they're playing? Do you think of the role first, or do you look for the profile?
Roles obviously are important. The most important role is your own role.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they generally will fit. Like if you're a star and you're focused at that, then having a deal maker clearly is going to be someone out who's actually doing all the promotions for you, so that you're less accessible, right? Or if you're a creator,
Okay, so I'm a creator and I
right?
need
So
a
a supporter will be
so
actually running your business for you. So you're not the one running the business, right?
running the business. I
Yeah.
thought supporter was more the...
No, absolutely. Creators should not be running their own business.
But running as in...
As in being the CEO. As in being the general manager.
Oh, okay.
As long as
it's a
you're the CEO
supporter position.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't run any of my own businesses, right? Because if I did, I'd be a liability to the business,
And,
right?
Yeah, and so what would accumulator be for me?
Well, if you were a creator and you had someone who's leading the team, someone who's actually out there being the general manager as a supporter, the accumulator would either be your financial controller, the person who's doing all the numbers side, or your COO, being kind of like doing all the operations and making sure all of that was solid. In terms of what the structure is? Yeah. So if a creator tends to create businesses, right? So you would have a supporter who would lead the team, because if a creator leads the team, they'll always leave the team behind, because the creator tends to do most things through osmosis or telepathy, and most team members don't work so well in either of those two, right? So basically, as a result, when you have someone who's a supporter, they're your translator. They're the ones who can take the vision and make it into something that's understandable, and they'll be willing to put the time into the people to make sure that people actually get it in a way that a creator just won't put that time in, right? A star, on the other hand, here is your triangle. A star, on the other hand, is someone that's really more about their own brand, like an Oprah Winfrey. So it's when Martha Stewart had the same story, the moment the key to a star is being less accessible, right? Less accessible means that when you do show up, then people are willing to pay more money for you, which means you need to have a deal maker. Like every Hollywood star has an agent, for example, right? Every sports star, will have an agent of some sort, a deal maker doing the deals for you. That, it's like, just think of Jerry Maguire, right? It's kind of like the whole, someone who's in the hustle, out there every day, connecting with people, because if you're out there doing that, you can't do the right deals for yourself, right? And then you would have someone like a Lord who's actually tracking all of this, so that you can actually see the stats, or make sure that you're connecting up with all the right people in the right way. If you're a supporter and you're actually leading your own thing, it's a bit like Rudy Giuliani when he kind of took over New York. Good examples right now are people like Meg Whitman, who's doing this right now. She did it with eBay, she's doing it with HP. Another supporter would be someone like Sheryl Sandberg at Facebook, right? Good example where she's leading the whole thing, but what she would do is make sure that, first of all, she's got a good trader who's the one who's actually her service support. Because a supporter will go out and meet lots and lots of people, but then they're not there nurturing those networks. They're out wanting to meet more people. So if they don't have this person to actually look after everyone on the service side, then they'll get overloaded and they won't be fulfilling on the promises they're making when they're out in front of people. So they'll have someone like a tempo who's service support, and then you would have someone like a mechanic that's actually making sure all the operations are working in the business, right? A deal maker like a Donald Trump, you know, if you remember George Ross in The Apprentice is a lawyer, right? You'll always find deal makers have to have someone like an accumulator that's kind of like dotting the I's, crossing the T's, right? That could be a lawyer, that could be an accountant. All deal makers tend to have these guys in place that are actually making sure everything's and actually bring lots of business your way. If you don't have that, the mechanic's going to have an amazing system that no one knows about, right? But if you have someone really strong here that can do that job, then the next thing is someone to make it solid at the bottom. Think of this like pass the parcel, where what's happening is that the reason that 3 minimum is each of us can stretch out with wings on either side. So for example, I'm a creator, I can stretch out and I can do a bit of mechanic, I can do a bit of star, I can do them both because they all are all about innovation. But I'm creator number 1. And you use those wings to speed up and slow down time. So for example, if I want to speed up time, I'll bring my wings in, which is a bit like taking the flaps off the plane, and I'll start going much faster, which means I'm spending all my time creating new stuff. If I'm creating lots and lots of new stuff, no one can keep up with me because there's too much creation going on, but I can actually start creating in crazy ways. If I want to slow down, I bring my wings out, I say no creation for the next 3 months. How do I market what I've created? How do I put systems around what I've created? It slows down and everyone then catches up, right? Same with stars, where if they're just focusing on their brand and they're not spending any time trying to lead the team, they're not spending any time creating anything new at all, they're actually saying, well, who else has got things that I could actually shine a light on? You know, who else could be leading the team that I could be shining a light on? If they did that, then the star tends getting brighter and brighter and brighter, but often that burns the people around them out, which is why the stars will lose their teams if they go too much in that direction. They kind of go, oh, it's all about the star now. Well, we might as well go somewhere else. And that happens to lots of stars that you see in Hollywood and all, you know, in music and so on. But when they actually say, okay, enough of the star, I'm going to kind of like start spending all my time shining a light on the supporter, on the creator, that changes everything. This just happened. I mean, you might have seen this with Miley Cyrus at the VMAs. A year ago, Miley Cyrus was just getting going. So it was like, what could I do which would be so outrageous it would be all about me? And so she did her whole twerking thing and everything, and she got the news everywhere. She was really clear that her star has grown so big. This year, I'm like, when she was at the VMAs, she's like, what can I do now, which is the total opposite, which is that I'm not shining light on me, say, look at me again, because I can't beat what I did last year, and people will just go, oh, there she goes again. And so she spent all her time just focusing at how she could shine a light, and she even gave up her place for the homeless guy to actually shine light that way, and she got all the press all over again because she was really aware, now it's time for me to slow down, shine light. And so you can always be in your flow by understanding how this works, and all the best people in the world, they're doing this every day. It's just a matter of noticing that. So by me having my wings out, I can stretch out, my arms can go to star and mechanic, my supporter can stretch out and also can have hands and star and deal maker. So it's like pass the parcel. You're always going to find a product needs to and then have the right team. I don't have to worry about getting the team in place. I know the supporter can do that for me, right? So I've got the right person in place now. And then from there, this person, the accumulator, is like the backstop, like in baseball, right? It's like backstop sitting there, has arms out both sides, Lord and Trader, which means whatever happens, if it's going to be a service issue, it can get caught, right? If it's going to be a new person showing up, it can get caught. If it's a new idea, it can get caught. Like wherever it is, it gets caught, and we know who's in charge of that thing so that we don't end up getting people doing things which are their weakness, which is usually how teams end up falling out of flow and breaking apart anyway. Does that make sense? Yeah? Is that too quick? Is that okay?
So,
You got a microphone?
so the dynamic is, I get the thing with the flaps, and you're either in your main power or you're stretching yourself a bit. I get that. How does it work that, and I must apologise, I wasn't here for the first week.
No problem.
So I'm a supporter, potentially. So what do I need?
Well, actually, it's not just what you need, it's what you and Jung need, which is an accumulator. Because you already create a supporter, right? Which means you're able to support her, and you already do through your languaging. I mean, have you noticed that for him? He's always like saying, hey, look, Jung's amazing, she's got this gift, blah, blah. That's what supporters do. So you do that job really well already. But you haven't yet got that grounded in a way on this side that the whole business can take care of itself. So as a result, the two of you are worrying as much about the business. I'll give you an example. Having the conversations right now with like the medical authorities and so on, neither of you should even be in the conversation, right? But you have to be, because you don't have someone here that actually knows the law, who actually knows the details, who's your COO basically, who's going to be the one that's going to do that side, that will be looking after that for you. Because you don't have that, you are the ones who have to do it. It creates much more stress for you than it would create for this person to do it. And this person who's much more detail-oriented would actually do a much better job at working it all out than either of you can anyway.
We actually have that. We've got the accumulator. We're paying her a lot of money.
But no, what I'm saying is the difference is if you guys are taking time out to have to work it through, you're already doing the wrong thing, right? If on the other hand, you say, hey, you work it out, tell us when you got a resolution, and you don't even have to think about it again, that's the right way to do it. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, thank goodness for that. And it will get sorted out then without you having to be involved in it, having to call the shots or have to be up to date with it.
So I hear that. So I'm a supporter.
Yeah.
So how do, what I jump 3, do I? 1, 2, 3.
You don't jump anywhere. You stay where you are.
Yeah, I'm there, but how do we know that it's an accumulator that I need, not a mechanic? 3 from me. Right. Okay.
You're either part of someone else's team where they're the lead, or you're the lead yourself, right?
Right.
So in your case, you're a part of a team where you're the second, and then you have a third who will show up.
Got
right?
it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that generally, if you're just starting off, there's someone's a supporter, and they're just starting off, and like, I'm just getting going. Should I be going out and looking for a trader? The answer is no, because you don't have flow yet. You haven't created your own river yet, right? So you don't need to be doing that. But go look for a creator, go upstream, and you'll find a creator who desperately needs you. Right? And whenever I find supporters who are like, well, you know, what should I be doing? I'll always answer it by saying it's not about what you should be doing. It's about who you should be working with that already is doing what you'd love to do. And they'll find a creator that's then doing that, and that creator always, if they're in flow, needs more supporters to help them out, right? And it's not like after you have one supporter, that's it done, right? I mean, I've got different companies, like Talent Dynamics is Michelle, who's leading that one, for example, right? When you actually have different companies and different supporters in different companies, like Richard Branson, every one of his companies is run by a supporter, and without getting too complicated, as time goes on, it may be that it gets to winter energy and you're looking for someone on this side to just look after things, which means you're not trying to grow like crazy, you're trying to like enhance things more. iLAB's a good example. Like Simone runs iLAB and she's a mechanic profile, right? But that's a good example of where, you know, we're not trying to kind of like grow iLAB like crazy, we're trying to really make it better and better. So it's about knowing who's the right profile that can just do it naturally. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll just take one more and then I'm going to continue on from here, right?
So I get that a creator creates businesses, but so do stars, so do supporters, and so do deal makers.
Nope, not the same kind of businesses as a creator.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
But I'm a star and I've got my own business.
Yeah.
So should I be looking at the right people to run the business so I can go off and swan off and shine lights on others all the time?
No. If you have someone who is like a deal maker can be overseeing the business, right? But for you to actually create the most value, if you try and play the creative role, which is like, I'll just create something and then let other people do it, you won't make anything like as much money as if you actually stay in the star role, which is where people are actually showing up as much to see you. But then you're magnifying yourself. Like if you do that through, like, you know, the videos, for example, which is what you want to do, that's great because then people are coming because you're giving them, like Mari Smith is a good example, right? Mari Smith, star profile from the point of view that she's really kind of like, you know, in conversation with people and very different from the likes of someone like, Gary Vee, who's like a creator profile, but also in social media, right? But very, very different because his whole thing is, you know, getting people to kind of like pay him a chunk of money to show up where he's got his whole team doing things, whereas Mari is still very involved herself within things that she's doing too. So it's a different strategy based on what your profile is, yeah? So you've got a profile at the moment which you're not really magnifying as much as you could do, but you're getting that intuitively anyway. So it's like, okay, I'll give it a go where I'm actually magnifying more. And if you do that, then you're going to find that people will get more attracted to you as opposed to someone who's got some product somewhere, because this is much about your personality coming through in the brand as well. Does that make sense? Yeah? Now, by the way, one thing is don't get caught up. Know you have to have a stool, because the stool, if you don't have one, is going to fall over. But don't get caught up that it has to be exactly the right person, because I will have a situation where I know I need someone who has an accumulator profile. I'll profile someone that turns out they're a trader, but I'll still put them in this position, say, here's the position I want you to do, because I know they can still do it, but I'm not going to say, well, because you're not a accumulator, I'm not going to take you on, right? I know I need someone in that area, I know where the gaps are, but this is a general rule, but don't kind of like end up making it so rigid that you end up kind of getting caught up in it, right? So, but this point here is that if you're finding the right people through the skills and also through the natural pathway they have, but always the ones who are in greatest flow. Know that you can always find the people in greatest flow because they're already out there in flow. They already have got partners. Like when I went to America and I wanted to know who were the best people at mailing out, who are the best affiliate partners, I didn't know who they were, but I went to the people already who had great products that clearly people were mailing out for them, and I said, who are your best partners? And they'd tell me who the best partners are because they know that if they pass that information on, they didn't lose anything from that. That partner might actually thank them later if they ended up working with me, right? So this whole thing about knowing that they all leave tracks, and I will always start by saying who's the best that I could go work with, and if I don't have the credibility with them yet because I don't know who I am, I'll find someone who does have the credibility that can actually be a middle person that wants to support me, and then will, as a result of that, get me in front of the right people. But the time it takes to get to the best in the market and to work with them is well worth that investment. Otherwise, you're always playing second or third rate, and you're always going to end up cleaning up a mess afterwards, right? Most of the messes we need to clean up is just because we didn't put the time in to get to the right quality in the first place, right? And whatever it is you need doing, there's someone out there doing it really, really well, and you want to find people that are always better than you at what you're doing. If you, at the moment, are saying, I am the best around me, I do everything better than anyone else, that's because you deliberately, consciously or not, went out and found people not as good as you in all these areas, and as a result of that, that's the only reason you're still the one that can do it all better than anyone else, right? It isn't like you're the only person in the world that can do all these things, but you design it that way, and that is a whole different conversation, which is a lot to do with self-worth and how we need to get out of our own way, and not have our business be there as a self-validating machine to basically show how important we are in the world, but actually the opposite, which is how can you make your business something that shows how little you're required so that you can actually step out of it and shine the light on everyone within your team instead. So this one here, should you do anything that's out of profile? No, you shouldn't. If you say, but I need to because I haven't found these people yet, go back to this one and do this one first. So for example, if you said, all right, do I really need to be going out to the US? Is there anyone else that can do it? And if you go, well, too late. I've set the date. I'm going to go. That's it. Then say, well, then at the very least, if I'm going to go out there, let me make my goal not to be to find a whole bunch of people I now have to follow up with and do the worst thing I could ever imagine. But instead, let me go out there looking for the person that can represent me in the US, for example, right? Because if you go out and do that, that's an easier thing to do. You can open up every conversation to say, hey, I'm out here right now. It's not what I naturally do, but we've got this amazing thing that we're doing at the moment. I'm looking for someone that can come join the team at the moment. Who would you recommend? Who do you work with right now? And that opens up the conversation so that at least that way you're finding the right person that can be that person who then go, yes, I definitely want to work with you. I'm the same. I'm an introvert more than extrovert. When I went out knowing I was going to have my book in America, I was like, I don't want to be going around networking with a whole bunch of people where I have to set up all these marketing partnerships. I couldn't think of anything worse. But what if I went out looking for someone who can actually run America for us? So I went out looking for that. And I got all sorts of people saying, hey, speak to this person, speak to that person. And then, of course, when I spoke to that person, I said, hey, if you were running things for us, how much money would you want to make? What kind of life would you want to live? What kind of people would you want to be bringing our way? And I just learned so much through that I actually got the education side. Remember, if you're on the introvert side, what really gets you buzzed up is knowledge, right? So if you go out and you meet with a bunch of people and you come up with name cards, it's not much of a buzz from that. But you go out and you learn lots of stuff and you come back with that learning, it's like, that's awesome, right? So go out and say, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out for the learning, and I'll go out to get the right connections that can then connect with me in the future, and it's much more achievable to do that, and it's much more fun than having to go out thinking you're creating this whole network that you then have to manage. Does that make sense? Yeah? But always it's about what resource are you building that you didn't have before that you can now have in place, because once you have that in place, life gets easier every time. Yeah? Now, from here, how do you trust other people? Like, how do you actually do this one? Trust is a function of time. Meaning, if you have a kid and you're not sure if you can trust the kid or not, and you say, look, if I give you this, will you bring it back to me? You don't know if you can trust that kid or not until they bring it back to you. Once they bring it back to you, you go, oh, look, they brought it back to me. I'll do it again. See if next time and after 3, 4, 5 times, you can trust it that, you can ask them to do something, they're going to do it, right? But trust gets built up over time as a result of a frequency of action back and forth. What tends to happen most of the time is once we start working with people, we don't realize that there is a frequency to trust that we need to set up so they can trust us as much as we trust them. And without getting into all the detail on it, I do this in my Emerald Circle mentoring, which is the green level mentoring. We go through the 5 different frequencies within a business where each of those frequencies has a different level of trust. We have one thing that we set, which is at this level up here, something which is kind of like the mission of the company. This is like enterprise promise. By the way, guys, I know timing is a little over, but we're going to go to about 11:30. You guys good with that? You good? Okay. So this one here, enterprise promise, is about do we trust we're on the right path to go to a place? Like, what's the goal of this business? So I'll set within our team charter. I'll just give you an example of what our team charter looks like. So we'll have something like our team charter, which will be enterprise promise, which is our why, igniting your genius. It's like our whole focus is actually how do we become an entrepreneur network where we're igniting the genius of those around us. This is something which all frequencies have a review and a renew, right? There's 2 things that happen in a frequency. A renew is how often are you going to change it, like the oil in your car. A review is how often you're going to check it to see how it's doing. A renew of the enterprise promise, too often companies are like changing it all the time, right? You want to set what yours is in such a way that you never renew it, right? This is never. But you review it once a year, right? Annual. So it basically has a sun cycle. It's like once a year you're going to actually have this renewal take place. And we'll meet once a year for a week with our whole team to kind of like say, right, what are we on track with what we actually promised to do with this business? Are we actually in a better position than a year ago? What have we achieved in a year towards being like a #1 network around the world? And then from this one, and so for the people that are in your business at that point, you're actually saying, what do you want to be in a year's time? And it's giving people a way of looking at the next year and for you to see what they'll want to do and what you want to do so that as a result of that, you're not just kind of like trying to trust them for a little bit. And we'll bring even our partners into this as well, but only the partners that have proven themselves at one of these other frequencies first, because we'll only ever set a 3-month frequency for anyone new we're going to work with. Whether it's someone who's getting a job, someone who's in partnership, we want to know within 3 months, is this someone that we should or should not be working with? And they know that as well, because we set the agreement up before that to say, hey, let's do this together, but if after 3 months it's not working out, let's just kind of shake hands, no regrets, and that's fine. And so we'll have a whole bunch of people coming through that after 3 months it's like, nope, it's not working out, but then they head on and we head on, and there's no awkward moment where you're trying to figure out like whose fault it is that it didn't work out, right? You've actually set it up ahead of time. From this enterprise promise, we have something called a team charter, which is a 1-year plan. So what do we actually want to achieve in the next year? So what you put down as your future vision is your 1-year plan. And you want to share that with your team, and you want, when you go back, to get your team to put down their future vision as well. Where did they want to be 1 year from now? Because if you don't know where that is, and if your business isn't serving their life in the same way as serving your life, they're not going to stick around anyway, right? But this is a great opportunity to go back and say, hey, I did this exercise to really visualize what I want to be in a year's time. Well, here's what I'd love this company to look like in a year's time. Here's what I'd love to be doing in a year's time. What would you love to be doing? And you find out from them what that is, and you'll be amazed at some of what they say, but it allows you to co-create a team charter, which is your 1-year plan, where you're renewing it every year. So this is now annual, right? This is going to annual. And the review is quarterly, like every quarter, which is basically now a season. You're going to be saying, all right, well, where are we now? Like we do this every quarter, where every quarter, we're about to do another one with our team, where we'll kind of say, well, here's our different projects that we're running. Here's our different projects we've got. How do we do on each of these different projects? Each one's got a promotion plan, just like the ones you've been working at. And this is kind of green level where I can effectively be in the flight, I can be in the flight control, looking at all the planes. Each one of these is a plane taking off and landing. Just like if you go to an airport, you see all the different destinations and where they're heading. And each one's got a pilot, right? So that way it means that I can have multiple things going on without feeling I have to fly everything myself. And everyone's got an ownership in that as well. Team charter then leads to something we have called a personal compass. And a personal compass is basically, don't worry about remembering all of this, just know that as you get to this level, there's a frequency. And these 3 here are the most important for yellow level. Personal compass is what you personally are going to do, not in the whole year, because things are going to change during the year. but in the next quarter, in the next 3 months, in order to make that happen. So what's the promotion that you're doing? This comes to the promotion bit later, that allows me to move towards where I want to go, and I'll probably end up getting it wrong, right? I'm going to learn something, but it's going to move me a little bit towards where I want to get to. So it's going to give me the cash flow, it's going to give me the learning, it's going to give me some new development tools I didn't have before, so I can go, great, I've actually moved forward now. And this is one which renews every 3 months, right? So now you've got the quarterly here, and the review is every month, which means monthly now, which is the moon cycle. You're now saying, all right, how are we doing on this one? Now, we have everyone in our team who owns something here. So everyone's like owning one thing where they can say, here's how this is going right now. When we have a partner who comes on board, this is the question, how do I know if I've got the right partner? If you say to the partner, here's our project plan, here's what we want to achieve, are you up for this? This is what it means for you. If they go, yes, I'm up for it, it's like, great. Well, here we're going to put this in place, and then after a month, let's just sit down, let's set a time now, where in a month's time we're going to sit down and just say, how's it gone? Now you know that's going to happen. You don't start freaking out after a week and say, I'm going to change you straight away because you haven't hit certain things, because you agreed you'd give them a month, right? And so effectively, I have within my journal, basically, like my different, I've got a wood page where I write all the things that are kind of ideas I have, so I don't go bug people for my ideas the whole time. It'll come up at my quarterly meeting. I've got this new idea for a new company. What do you guys think? But I'll never bring it up in a weekly meeting because it will just derail everyone, right? It's like, oh, go phone these 5 people. No, I won't do that. Like I'll put them up in wherever it's right. I've got a whole new business idea. Well, I'll put it up here to say, I'll mention that in November when we have our annual meeting, but it can wait until then, right? So effectively, I'm turning my to-do list into to-do schedule where my brain's not full of all the stuff that I want to have done yesterday. It all gets put into the right place. Just like if I was kind of like, having a whole bunch of deliveries from different places for my kitchen for the, I'm not going to try and cook it all as soon as it gets to me. I'm going to put one needs to go in the fridge. I'm going to put the stuff, everything has its place. From the personal compass, you then have this one here, which is the project maps. This is your promotion, and this is what you've been putting together, where you renew this now every month, right? Because every month you're saying, is this still on track or not? And you're reviewing it every week. This is what you should be doing, setting it up to say, we're going to have a weekly review, where the weekly review is not going to be talking about, are we even doing the right thing for the company? A weekly review is, are we on track with our promotion right now or not? And if we're not on track, come with a solution which will get us on track. You set a milestone, you say we hit this much in sales, or we get this kind of result. If we don't have it, come already with your solutions as to what is happening instead. So you start to build trust over time. You don't expect you're going to be able to trust somebody until at least a month down the line by them continuing to come to you and saying, well, here's my solution, here's what I think we should do. And if you start noticing that during that time, they're really giving you nothing, they're giving excuses, giving all the reasons things can't be done, don't freak out about it at the time. Just know you've got a monthly review. And at that monthly review, you're going to say, you know what? I don't think this is working out for us. So that's okay. Like, we'll find someone else to take it on board and so on. But we did say that one of the goals of us working together was to figure out if we can work together or not. And at the moment, it doesn't feel like we can work together, and there's nothing personal about it. It's just that's the way it is. So let's actually step up and do something different. But you've got this frequency you're creating as you go. The final one here, which is the flight deck, which is basically what we track on all the stuff we do. This flight deck here, we renew every week, because every week we go, oh, look, we're behind or we're ahead. Right now, for example, we've just moved from like one of our big projects, which was the US one, to the UK one that's happening at the moment. So I have a meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon with our whole team, and it'll be an hour meeting. We have a flight deck. Everyone's reporting on how they're doing in that area. I can just listen in on what they're doing, and I know if we're not hitting a certain number, that person's already got solutions that they're giving, and this is just how things can tick along without me having to worry about things not being on track, right? There's always a way that someone's worrying about it. And this is the key. Your team needs to worry about it more than you do. Because if you worry about it more than your team, it means you're still the one who's trying to drive everything, right? And so this one basically is renew weekly and review. We can review it every day because we have a track on all the numbers on a daily basis as well, right? So trust is a function of frequency. And once you actually start creating that frequency, it shifts. Once in a while, we'll have a team where things are going really badly wrong. We're meeting once a week and it's still not getting the result. How do we actually change that? We say we're going to meet 3 times a week instead. We're going to meet every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just to check in on how we're doing. Let's change what we thought was going to be our weekly goals into 2-day goals. What do you want to put down for Monday? What do you want to put down for Wednesday? What do you want to put down for Friday? And the most important thing here is that you're not trying to trust someone that they can follow what you're telling them to do. Because no one can ever get trusted for doing that because it's all in your head. But you can trust someone to do what they said they're going to do. So when you have someone come on board to do your website, you have someone on board who's going to do sales for you, don't say, here's what I need, can you do it? Because of course they're going to say yes. Say, here's what I need, what would be your plan to do it? What would be your time frames? What would you want from me? And how would you set it up? You get them to put the plan together, and if they can't put the plan together, they're the wrong person in the first place. But if they can put the plan together, you're now following them against their plan, not against your plan. And if you can't trust them against their own plan, then that's a pretty good reason not to work with them. But you can't ever, like they'll always, if you say, here's my plan, here's how much sales we need, they'll go, great, we'll go for it. And after 2 weeks and you don't hit it, they'll be the first to say, well, I didn't think that was that, you know, that it did, I was willing to go with it because it's what you thought you could do. I didn't think I could do that. And so now you back at square one again, right? So always start by saying, well, here's what I think we could do, but I'd much rather what you are willing to commit to doing. What do you reckon it would be? What would it look like? And get them to put that plan together, and then you're following them on their plan instead. Does that make sense? Okay, take a moment with the person next to you and just share from these first 3 we went through and this whole idea of trust and frequency and getting the right team in place, which is what this is all about. Just what's the distinction that's showed up for you in this kind of like conversation here? Promotion is all about like just learning, can you kick a bit better, right? That's what this is about. So in this one here, Christelle, let me ask you, you've already got an idea of what you want your promotion to be. How much money do you want to be making in this promotion? Yeah, so I'm asking you now, well, how much money do you want to make?
This is where I struggle with. Do I just set a random figure, or what I usually do is
Once you've set the figure, is it random anymore?
Yeah, but is it? Yeah, is it realistic?
Okay,
like,
so remember what I said before about the power of zero, right? And maybe I didn't have time to speak to you guys about it, but the power of zero is the fact that we all have a number, which is, have you guys heard of power of zero? Seen any videos on power of zero?
Adding the zeros?
Adding the zeros, right? Adding zero is the fact that we have a comfort level right now in our mind of what actually is very doable, right? A zero. So, I'll give you an example. If I said to everyone in this room, right, let's just do this experiment. I said, everyone in this room, you've got 3 months to put a little project together, right? Whatever your promotion is right now, where your goal within 3 months is at the end of 3 months, by what you're going to do, you're going to make an extra $10. Hands up who thinks, yeah, you can make an extra $10. Extra $10? All right. What about an extra $100, right? Who thinks you can make an $100? Okay, right? So from what you already know, okay, who here goes, yeah, I actually know already how I could set up something which would allow me to put an extra $1,000 in my pocket. Who thinks $1,000? All right. Okay, $10,000. Who's at $10,000? You see what happens? Some hands are still up. Some hands are like, I'm not so sure anymore. What about $100,000? You see what goes up? 10,000, by the way, is the yellow number. 100,000 is the green number, right? 1,000 is the orange number. It's like at every level, there's a mindset where you add the zero and it suddenly becomes like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Because what you need, like at $1,000, someone goes, oh, if I put more time into work, which is orange level, I can make 1,000. But I can't do that with 10,000, right? Because I haven't got enough hours in the day. But someone who's actually, no, I can create a product, or I can use a product I've got, and I can get out and promote that, that can make 10,000. But at 100,000, no, you need a team that's going to go out and do that. And you need partnerships. You can't do it the same way you can do it at yellow level. $1 million, that's blue level now. You can't even do it by basically just going out there and selling products unless you've got something really high-end. You've got to start actually selling assets, like a property or something like that, to get to $1 million. So you've got each level, the zero unlocks, like combination code, unlocks a new language and a new way of doing things. And if you force yourself up to the next level, you have to learn new skills and a new way of doing things, right? That's why each of these levels are like that. So what you should be doing right now is to say, right, what if 10,000 is something that I think I can do, and this is a whole new area for me, then do I want to stress myself out by trying to go for 100,000 while going for something new, right? You go, no, I'll just go for the 10,000 or for 20,000. If, on the other hand, you go, oh, you know what, I've already made 50,000 doing this, what would it take for me to make 100,000 doing this? Well, then you can stretch to do that, right? So it's always about saying, what are you going to do that's going to stretch you so that you have a failure that steers you, right? Because you might not get exactly where you want to get to, but you're not going to kill yourself off the back of it, but not a failure that's going to sink you, where you're going to lose your confidence in everything else because you suddenly go for $1 million and then you still only manage to get to 100,000. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. This is about knowing at every point there's a way that we already have in our mind something which is very doable, which doesn't stretch us at all. We have something else, when you add the zero on it, which starts to create a bit of discomfort, but excitement at the same time. Because we go, you know what, that would be awesome if I could do that, but I think it's actually possible, right? And there's a pretty good chance, whichever level you're at, there's people you're already working with that are at the next level up. So when I was at yellow level doing my publishing, I knew in order for me to get more cash flow, the people at the green level aren't working off cash flow, they're working off profit and loss, right? So like my printer was green level. So I needed cash. I was like, I need more cash. My printer needed profit. They had the cash. They wanted to make more profit. So knowing that, and knowing that I wanted to actually have more money myself, I would go look for green level people like the printer and say to them, listen, will you give me 6 months credit, which to me was worth 50 grand a month because of the money I was spending on the printing, which to me was worth $300,000, which is a huge amount of money to me. Will you give me 6 months credit if I'm willing to pay an extra 10% on my invoices with you? And they're like, cool, yeah, that doubles our profit with you. So of course we'll do that, right? And they're working out in their head that being my bank is going to actually make them more money than having the money just sitting in the bank themselves. But I couldn't do that with someone at yellow level because cash is more important than the profit, right? And so it goes on. We always, if we're going to go to the next level up, I'm probably working with some people like that already. They're the guys already who are looking at the profit, and then we can actually lift up that level too. Yeah. So so that would be it. You are picking a number at random, but the moment you pick it, it's not random anymore, right? Okay. But you're picking a number where you're saying that's the number I'm going to go for, and it's like me going to a map and picking a place on random, like Kuta, right, or Ubud, or whatever it is. The moment I picked it, it's no longer random. But as long as I'm letting it be anything, it's so random no one can come with me. It's like me saying, hey guys, who wants to go with me? Where are you going? I haven't decided yet. It's like, what? Well, why would you go with you then, right? But if I know where I'm going and you go, oh, I want to go there as well, then suddenly the car fills up and you go, right? So what would be your number?
Around the 10,000 because it's new.
Okay, all right. So if it's 10,000, the next step is to turn your numbers into people, right? Which is turning things from measures to meaning. So if it's 10,000, is that 10 people at 1,000 each? Is it going to be one person at 10,000? Is it going to be 1,000 people at $1? Okay. What would you reckon it would be? And in your case, I mean, you can change this, but just for the purpose of this session now, what would you do?
Well, it's a two-step thing. Are we talking about selling the spaces in the magazine?
Don't worry about the how. You're just thinking about what kind of people do you want to be working with.
It would be, okay, 10,000. I don't think I'd go, well, yeah, I don't know. Is it easier to go really high, a few people, or low?
But this all depends on what you see as what you'd love to be spending your time doing, right? So I'm like, and you've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks. You want to be spending your time doing something like what Joe Polish does, where he's actually with a group of people that he's making a real high. Is he doing the magnified thing?
I'd rather go with people that are serious and making less of them, but big numbers.
All right. Okay. So imagine, for example, you could find 5 people that would be willing to pay you $2,000 each for an incredible experience where they're going to learn all about leadership and they're going to connect up with awesome people that you're connecting up with around the world as well. All right? Yeah. Would that be a cool thing to do?
Yeah.
Yeah? So let's say you did that, right? So you're saying, okay, I'm going to find 5 people that are going to be willing to pay $2,000 each. It's going to allow me to see what happens when I bring a group together. You know, I'm happy to do this where, you know, they're going to have basically, let's call it a 4-month experience, right? And I'm just going, top of my head, 4 months, they're thinking in their head, oh, whatever I'm going to do is going to be worth $500 a month to me, right? But what you're doing is you're saying to them, now the people who you've got, they might be on your database already. They might be your readers already, right? But if you actually, and so now you've got a choice. You say, what have I got of leverage? And you already figured it out, which is that you've got a front cover, you know, you've got articles in there. So you've got all this kind of stuff in there already, right? But the other thing is that you've also got the fact that the people that actually say, yes, I want to be part of this, I want to be featured in it and so on, that they'll be looking at this almost like advertising, where they're paying you money to be part of this. And you can say, hey, here's a competition, tell us about the good news, the stories you've had and so on. And as a result of that, they'd be part of that as well. So you can go down a route like that. But you could also go down a route where you're saying, hey, what we're going to be doing is we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what are the things we asked the interviewers. You're going to have a chance to ask the interviewers as well, for example, right? What we're going to be doing is we're going to actually have a series of people that we're going to have on board based on your nominations. Now,
you've lost me.
There's a big difference about you having leaders that are going to be on here because the readers nominated them to be on here.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to someone saying, I'm nominating myself to be on here, which means you're getting whoever's got the biggest ego to want to go on there, and probably the people who want to pay you the money are not going to be the ones who actually come on board, right? So this is the difference of you saying, am I looking for the people that I want to be learning, Or am I looking for the people who want to be advertising?
Oh,
right?
okay. So the nominations.
Yeah, if you say, I'm going to go for the people who want to be learning, you'll say, hey, nominate the people. We've got a list of 10 people here or 12 people that basically we're putting up as like the guys that are going to be our front cover. You nominate for the ones that you actually like the best out of these, or you can nominate someone you'd like as well. What we're going to do is we're going to have as winners for those people who are nominated. Everyone who nominates in, your votes count. But what we're going to do is take a number of you and then giving you an inside look by being part of our behind-the-scenes mentoring group that we're running, where we're going to have a chance to be asking the questions for the people we're going to be interviewing. At the same time, we can go on a journey of some sort or come to a conference of some sort. And as well as you having a kind of a freebie for someone who wins it, you can actually have people who apply to say, yeah, I want to be part of this, have a way that they can actually be coming on board at 2,000 where you have 5 people. Or make it 10 for 1,000 if you want to as well. But then you've got everyone getting a buzz around it. They get excited by the idea. You're now in contact with the people who already said they're interested in this. But you stop when you get to the 10,000, right? It's an experiment to see how you go. And what you get when you get to the 10,000 is you get confidence. Now it's like, hey, look, that worked. Maybe next time I'll do 20,000, right? And so each time you're doing it, you're actually creating what you're doing based on the destination you're setting, as opposed to saying, well, I'm not setting the destination until I know that I've got all the tools to get there. And it's like a pilot waiting for everyone to get on the plane before he decides where he's going to go. No one ever gets on the plane. And it's a chicken, it's chicken and egg where you never get started in the first place, right? So most of us are trying to make decisions based on the resources we have, as opposed to making decisions where we want to go, which then attracts the resources we need, right? And that's why we always get stuck based on our resource, as opposed to getting limited just by the size of our vision. Yeah.
Is that also because the other challenge I have is, so switched on leadership for all purposes is really not, making any money, any big money. So I've got money that wasn't earned through that business. I don't want to get into the, I'll just pour it in there. When you delegate and take stuff away, delete stuff, often that means a cost. So it's not really funding it with something else. You have to work out how to fund it within that business, don't you?
Well, no, it's about funding it from the promotion.
From the promotion, yes. So once I've done that, I use that money to delegate the rest of it
before you even start. You say, we're going to do this thing which is going to make $10,000. I'm going to put a budget of 20% of that towards the people who are going to help me on the marketing of this. That means I'm going to be paying out $2,000 for that. I'm going to put another $2,000 for my website design or whatever you want. You actually are breaking up the future pie of the money you're going to make in such a way that people, for example, when I went to America, I said, this is a $10 million promotion we're doing. I said, we're going to give 20% away for marketing. So my conversation opener when I went in was to say, hey, we're doing this $10 million promotion. I got to give $2 million to someone. Who do you know who wants to earn that kind of money, right? So I'm already going in with an opportunity and an asset where people are, and so everything we set up was with percentages on people where the only question they had was, do I believe Roger, right? Is he got enough credibility to say that? And if I hadn't done $1 million promotions, I couldn't have said that, right? But when I started, I was like, well, I'm going to make 100,000 doing this. The printer example I gave, right? I already had some printing going, so they could say, well, this is credible enough that I'm willing to take the risk on this. And so then they step into that, right? Your credibility is your number one asset as an entrepreneur. Most of us are never building credibility by saying, here's what I'm going to do, and then we do it, which is why we never have any leverage. But the moment you start doing it and you say, hey, I'm going to do something now at $20,000, the last one I did, I said we'd make $10,000, we did it in a month. People go, oh, really? And you go, yep, here's what happened. And they go, great, then we're on board with you. And you start attracting all the right people who want to go on the same journey as you as well. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah? Does that make sense to everyone else as well? So your biggest asset that you have to trade is your future. Your future vision of where you want to go is your biggest asset. And you take any company out there, whether it's a Richard Branson, who basically has sold 500 tickets to go out to space for $200,000 each, or whether it's like, Steve Jobs, who basically ended up becoming a billionaire because he showed how big Apple was going to become based on his track record in the past. That they're all based on future earnings, not based on past earnings, right? That's why so many companies that make no money are worth so much money, because of the future promise of where they're going. And they'll get the right people around them, sometimes the right investors, sometimes the right mentors, just to say, hey, if that person's supporting me, then that's a really good reason for you to support me as well. And people are much more interested in investing in the future than they are investing in something from the past, right? So this is about you becoming a trader in your future, where you're saying, here's how big it's going to be. And what you notice is the bigger it becomes, provided you still have credibility, the two things that are going to be the core to your trust. The core to your trust, in the same way of how you trust others, is going to be internal trust, which is called confidence. The moment you trade your confidence for anything, you start getting wobbly. The moment you feel less confident about something, you get less wobbly, you feel you can say. The more you get confident about something, the more you actually show up in a very different energy. The easiest way to get confident about something is that you're actually saying you're going to do something and then you hit it. Which means even if you only want to go for 1,000, then you do it. I remember the times when I've lost my confidence the most. I had a really bad patch in business, like, 12 years ago. And I remember I didn't believe anything I said. Like, because I said, I'll do this. I didn't even believe myself I could do it because I'd lost all my confidence in myself. So what I do, I said, the first thing I need to do before I even go out and try and fix my business is I'm going to build my own confidence up. So what I did was I thought, right, I'm going to do it by running. And I said, right, I'm going to run for 5 minutes. And that's how I started. I had lost so much confidence. I was like, I have no idea about anything I say anymore. And I just went running. And after 5, so I'm going to run for 5 minutes. And I'd run for 5 minutes and I'd stop. And I'd go, yeah, I feel better now. And then I was like, right, and I started actually just setting goals for myself. And every time you say, I'm going to do this, and then you do it, your confidence goes up and up and up. Until at the end, when you say, when I say I'm going to do something, it's actually going to happen. And then suddenly you start showing up differently. Credibility is external confidence, right? Credibility is when people say, hey, look, when that person said they're going to do something, they actually did it. And then people want to be on your journey as well, right? These all happen. So promotions are not about going out and making money. Promotions are about promoting your credibility and promoting your confidence. That's what they're about. Promote is to actually lift up, is to gain altitude. So the more promotions you do, the more you're promoting yourself to a higher level, the higher level you are, the more clarity you get in your confidence and in your credibility. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so from this one, and I know I'm downloading a lot of stuff all at once, but hopefully this all kind of like fits in to this cycle of conversation, which is it all starts with other people, not yourself. It all starts with how you now reflect your own promotions in a way that actually is a reflection, a mirror on them. And then you get to something like this, which is how to change the world, which is fun. These two are actually much simpler now. Because the answer is, it's not you who's ever going to change the world. It's going to be the people around you who change the world. And the only way that you're going to have other people directed to change the world in a way that works for you is that you have their trust in the first place. So if you really want to go out there and change the world, you start by doing the small things yourself that are going to make the difference. And your purpose is measured by one thing: contribution. Not your future contribution, but your contribution today. So if you look at something like Bill Gates, Bill Gates is out there basically, curing polio. It's like when he dies, people are going to say, oh, he made a huge difference to like healthcare in Africa. He saved, millions, if not billions of people as a result of putting all his money towards these causes. But he didn't start by saying, I want to go out there and I want to do that. He started by saying, I want to do something meaningful. What can I do today with what I know that can be meaningful? Because I know a lot of people who say, this is what I want to do. But then when I say, well, what did you do today? They go, well, nothing yet. And what will happen is that we'll have this idea that purpose is something really far out there, which is to go and change the world and everything. But the real question is, well, what did you do today? And what he figured out, this was back when it was 1990, when he decided he's going to get more purposeful, was he figured out at that point, well, I've got computers, and I can see that libraries need computers because they're all just books at the moment. So I'm going to start donating my computers to libraries, which is what he started doing. So that was his purpose. His purpose was his contribution was his computers. As he started doing that, he started noticing that while the libraries and many people kind of liked having the computers there, many people weren't using the computers. So he started saying, well, is there a better way for us to get these to the people who need it? They go, yeah, go to the schools. So then he's saying, oh, so he went to some of the schools and realized most of them didn't have computers. And that's where the kids showed up every day. So he started changing from giving computers to libraries to giving computers to schools. So now they were getting into the schools, and the schools were going, thank you very much for this. But as he went into the schools, he started finding that there were people there who were saying, hey, you want to make a big difference? It's not even the schools in America that need this. There's schools in Africa that have none of this. And if they had this, it would make all the difference. So he flew out to Africa to see if this was true. And in Africa, sure enough, this was true. And he's like, wow, I've got to get these computers out to Africa. So he started getting the computers out to African schools. And as he was doing that, he realized it actually wasn't about the computers. It was about the education system. It was about the teaching. So he said, right, I'm going to create a foundation now called the Gates Foundation, which is going to be showing teachers how they can educate more effectively. And we're going to take that out to Africa. And as he did that, about 15 years in, he started realizing one of the biggest problems in Africa was that the kids weren't coming to school because they were dying because of the diseases, which could so easily be solved. And he thought, well, this is nuts. I could put my money into actually helping solve these diseases. So the point is that he got to his purpose through one contribution after another. And there's no way he would have known that would have been the end purpose if he hadn't been contributing every day. And if he'd started by saying, I just want to go out and make this big difference, and he didn't do anything from the first day, he never would have got anywhere. So for anyone who's in a situation like William's, like, I want to go out and I want to see this big thing, I want to change the world, then it really starts by saying, well, that might be what you think is needed right now. And it may be true. Maybe it's not. But either way, you can already do something really meaningful today by saying, how am I already contributing straight away, right now, today, in a smaller community, in a smaller way, even like showing up with 8 people where at the end of today I said, we had a conversation, we got some action points, we did something which is already moving myself along in such a way that if someone said to you, what's your purpose? The way you could say what your purpose is isn't by saying, here's my dream. The way you say what your purpose was to say, here's what I did yesterday. Right? Here's what I did yesterday. Because by doing it that way, you actually are now authentically in contribution, where you're constantly giving in whatever's the best way you can give today. And so I share that because most of the time we have this idea of where we want to go, but the truth is we were so busy thinking about that for the future, we didn't actually do anything today. If you start doing this today, you start living a meaningful life from day one. And then, of course, you then start attracting people who actually want to help you because they can see that you're serious about wanting to give back as well. Right? And that kind of leads me to this final one. Of course, if you do this, you start attracting all the right people, which means this becomes natural anyway. You don't have to do it on your own. The only time we feel we have to do it on our own is that we're every day waking up where we want ourselves to be more successful more than the people around us do. So redefine your definition of success and the cause of success from it being you wanting to be successful to how many people around you want you to be successful. Because if every day you wake up saying, my way for me to be successful is to want to be successful, you're going to constantly have too much on your plate and be stressed out the whole time because you've got to do it all. But if every day you're saying, well, how do I collect other people around me who actually want me to be successful? How do I do that? Well, because I'm thinking more about what is going to be of value to them and how they can improve what they're doing. And they know I'm the key to their success, or I'm the key to them having a more successful life. So they are going to root for me every day. They're going to every day be giving me opportunities, sharing things with me, wanting me to be successful. I don't have to worry about being successful anymore. Everyone else is worrying about me being successful instead, right? And if you do that, you're just never alone because you're surrounded by other people around you. You don't have to do it so much anymore because you've actually created this current yourself. And most importantly, the awesome thing is, the only way for you to be successful now is that you're allowing everyone else around you to be successful. And this is the difference of trying to get stuff as opposed to give. If you actually realize it's the giving, it's like a gardener being in a garden saying, I want this garden to give me beauty. It's like, well, as long as you're sitting there waiting for it to give you beauty, it ain't ever going to give you beauty. But if you actually say, well, what I'm going to do is actually just treat all the plants in such a way that they're going to grow and be beautiful, I'm going to actually go out there and really support everything around me to actually water it, nourish it, without even thinking about how it's going to give me beauty in return. I'm just going to focus at this beauty. Well, guess what? It ends up giving you all that beauty back as well, right? And that's what I just complete with on here, is start with the micro, with each individual. How do I make each person I meet as beautiful as I can in such a way that that's just naturally going to shine back on me? And how do I do this in a way that whatever I'm looking to achieve, I've found the way that by me achieving it, it's a benefit to this person, or it's a benefit to this person. And I wouldn't even have to tell them about what I want to achieve. I'll just tell them about what it is I want to bring of benefit to them, and they'll then show up and actually want to be of benefit to me as well. This doesn't start anywhere further away than your team itself. When you go back to your team, whatever you do, don't go back and say, I'm so excited about iLAB, here's what I want to do. Don't even mention any of that stuff. Go back and say, I am so excited about iLAB because it really got me to see how important the people around me are. You guys are the ones who are important. And I've got some tools now as to how to visualize your future and then support that I want us to go through that together. So let's just go, let's set some time aside. I'd like to see where you'd want to go in a year's time. I want to see how I can support and how this company can support where you want to go. And let's dream a little bit here. And let's actually expand what we can achieve together so that this business in a year's time becomes a co-creation. And I'll share with you what I want to be and where I want to go as well. And you'll be amazed how much the people around you will support you to not have to work so hard and to not have to do so much if they can see the benefit in it for themselves as well.